It's Chelsea.
It's Nina.
And you're in the Critics' Kingdom. So today we're going to be discussing Return to Halloweentown.
The
or
final
Halloweentown 4, depending on how you want to,
The Halloweentown that should never have been would be another way to say it, I think.
Yeah.
Feel. Opinion.
We'll get into it, but let's just say we're not the only ones who feel this way. Even like other people's reviews were just like, why? So yes. Let's actually just get into it and do the recap. So this came out in 2006. The biggest thing that you'll notice first is that our homie, Kimberly J. Brown, is not present. And instead they have replaced her with Sarah Paxton.
Mistake. Who
I know mostly for being on Darcy's Wild Life on the Discovery Kids channel. And so therefore the rest of this recording I will call her Darcy.
That's fine, because she's not Marnie. That's totally acceptable. I think that's a fair thing to do, Chelsea.
So
I will refer to her as not Marnie.
Yes.
To be clear.
Yes. So Darcy is Marnie now.
Let's just move on.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
It's already upsetting enough.
But this whole plot essentially just revolves around the fact that she goes to Witches University, does not tell her mother until the day before that she got a scholarship.
A full scholarship.
To go to Witches University, and her mother's like, I thought we were going to community college.
Which is not the same thing.
And then she was like, no, Mom, I got a full scholarship to Witches U, so I'm going to Witches U. She goes to Witches U. Dylan comes with her to help her unpack, and then ends up later telling her he's actually staying, and he also is going to Witches University because him and her mom agreed. That's what him and their mom agreed.
Even
though the only way she could go.
I will say, I really thought that he just didn't have his powers anymore because we haven't seen him use them since he
didn't use them the entirety of the
third film. We see them show up in his hands, and then we don't really see them again.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I don't.
So I guess he's not I guess he didn't, relinquish his powers, which is what we thought happened. But yeah, so they're at Witches U. Shortly after being there for a few minutes, they end up seeing Ethan, who, if you remember from the previous film, Halloweentown High, is the son and traitor, of Dalloway, who was the antagonist in Halloweentown High. And he's just walking around making these fleeting glances at Marnie, and Marnie feels weird, and you're like, oh god, this is about to be a relationship, isn't it? So
and you really wish that it weren't.
Exactly. And then after seeing him, they run into these 3 Asian bad bitches named Scarlet, Sage, and Sapphire Sinister,
who we really wish the film had been about.
Yes, because they were the best part of this film and would have been way more interesting.
So much more interesting to watch.
And their father is also... He works in the university. Is he the president of the university?
I don't know.
They never actually say what... sorry. His dad runs Sinister Corporations or something. And
so the sponsor of the school?
I guess so.
If you can't tell, by now I had already decided I wasn't quite invested in this story.
Yeah, so their dad runs a big company or Sinister or something, and you also see from the beginning that he's been plotting on getting Marnie to go to Witches U so that he could take all their powers, and he basically... By
fulfilling this prophecy.
Right, by fulfilling a prophecy. The Chancellor is also in on it. That's why she gave her a full scholarship, and they're trying to get the daughters to basically trick her into using magic, because what we also find out is that Witches U now accepts all creatures, which confused Marnie, because she was like, I thought it was Witches University. Why are there trolls? And they're like, well, girl, thanks to you and your integration efforts.
All of the witches now want to go, the witches can go
to fucking University of Wisconsin.
There we go.
So we need people here, so we had to start letting in all the creatures. And because of that, all these creatures aren't necessarily inherently magical like witches. So now we have a no magic policy, so everybody has to learn together. And she was just like, damn, that's fucked up. So,
which is wild.
It is truly
wild. It's so crazy. It's like, Marnie, this is what you wanted. You're not allowed to be mad about this.
Exactly. It is really wild. Meanwhile, her mother is back in the mortal world and she's selling real estate And
or her own house. I really am. I'm slightly convinced. Chelsea feels a little differently than I do.
I feel like she's a real estate agent trying to get back out there.
I feel like her kids left and she decided to start selling her house, and is doing a lot.
Yeah.
Either way, it's still too much and unnecessary.
She keeps calling Marnie like from various
toilet
water
bowls,
orifices throughout the home.
Bird baths.
Like it's very weird. And then Marnie is like,
During
Mom,
tours.
stop talking to me. Like every time, and the calls only last 2 minutes if she picks up. Most of the time, she doesn't even pick up. So,
which is typical.
Right.
Kid at college. That makes sense.
So basically, Dylan also then like falls in love with our favorite, bad bitch trio. And
He really doesn't even choose one.
No, he doesn't. He's just like, all three of you are my type.
I'm telling you, he grows up to be a white man in tech. I'm telling you. A specific type of white man in tech.
He is. Meanwhile, as we go forward in their days, we see that Marnie gets this huge ass dorm, and they're like, oh, this is the Cromwell dorm, and Aggie stops by for 0.5 seconds to basically be like, oh dear, there's so many things you don't know. I'm so happy you got this dorm though. And it's and then she like glimmers away, so we don't know what what Marnie doesn't know.
Glimmer is a good word for that.
And so then we're like, okay. And from that point on, we see her go through classes, and they go through their first couple of days, and like one of the Sinister Sisters like enchants a paper of hers when they're in class one day, and she gets called to the chancellor's office, and the chancellor's like, you could be doing so much more, Marnie, you're not in trouble. And then they do like an archaeological dig class or something, where the whole premise is that they're digging in
the ruins of the Cromwell Castle, which
right.
I guess the university is built on.
Right. So basically, Witches University is what used to be like the Cromwell family castle,
or like grounds,
right,
and castle, like manor.
Yeah. Or they own the land. They owned all that land.
Yeah.
And so you find that out, and then at that point they do the archaeological dig. And all of a sudden, this box comes flying up from inside of the hole, and it comes straight to Marnie's hands. And she's like, oh, wow, okay. And they're like, oh, my gosh, Marnie, you must open the box, because it's like this box that just says S. Cromwell on it, and then it just has a keyhole. So she clearly has to have a key to open it. Or like use magic, but like obviously she can't use magic, so
yeah,
she basically needs to find a key. That's what ends up having to happen. And the chancellor then inevitably like calls her into the office and was like, use your magic. You'd be allowed to just to open this up. And so she does,
which she should have immediately known was a trap.
Exactly.
You have been caught in so many traps, Marnie. You want to know why? Because it's not Marnie.
It's not. It's Darcy. It's Darcy.
She doesn't actually have the training.
Right. So then she doesn't recognize that that's a trap, and she keeps trying to open it, and it doesn't work, and the Chancellor gets more and more annoyed with each try.
Because the Dominion is trying to enslave Halloweentown.
Right. So then she leaves, and like Silas Sinister comes over, and him and the Chancellor talk, and basically they're like, we have to get her to open it up. She must use her magic more, and like, we need to get her so she can open it so we can use this power and enslave Halloweentown. That's basically their whole thing, and like
they're called the Dominion.
They're called the Dominion, right? Yeah, they're like, that's like what their collective name is. And Ethan overhears this, so then he immediately tells Marnie this, and she was just like,
I don't believe you.
You're
because
lying.
I think you're the trap.
Right, because which, to be fair, he was a traitor last time.
But because of that, why would he
lie again?
That doesn't make sense. Like, if he got caught and he's trying to be a friend now, you know what I mean? Like, fool me once, you know?
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
Misused logic. This whole film.
It makes no sense. They end up going on a date. It's, they fly over to, like, get ice cream somewhere, and then the Sinister Sister trashes their brooms because she then finds out Ethan relinquished his powers after his father got banished after the last movie. So he no longer has powers, so I'm still confused as to why he's attending Witches University. But I guess technically under the rule that they have now, even if you're mortal, you could technically attend Witches University.
Are you mortal if you're a witch that loses your powers?
Well, no, I'm saying if we're following the laws that they have laid out here, where witches can go to, like, UW, then technically humans could come to Witches University.
Yeah, got you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just curious if, like, what
What are you?
What becomes
what is a witch without their powers?
Because are you now human?
I guess
technically, but why would you necessarily be human? Like, is a witch just a human with powers?
Yeah, that gets into it.
This is philosophical.
Yeah, that's a deeper question.
Maybe you guys can ask that amongst yourselves.
Yes. Is a witch just a human with powers? Are we thus all witches? No.
Are there levels?
Are there levels of witchery? No. In the dancery. But yes. So then after that, she eventually comes around to like believing Ethan, and by this point she's like, I need to figure out how the heck to open up this box. So she goes to like her one professor that she trusts, which is obviously the kooky one, Professor Periwinkle. And Professor Periwinkle is like, oh yeah, girl, I knew Miss Splendora. She was a cool person. And
but I can't tell you who she really is, because I promised her I
never reveal her identity. I can just tell you the name. And then Marnie was like...
She does not talk like that, by the way.
No, not at all. She's like this older white woman. But yes, so then after a while, they... Like, once Marnie, like, learns a little bit more about it and, like, how she's being deceived, she goes back to Professor Periwinkle, and Professor Periwinkle's like, you figure out who Splendora was? And Marnie was like, yup. So then Professor Periwinkle's like, let's open up this time capsule so you can go back and figure out how to open it from when she, like, initially locked it up. So she goes back to the Dark Ages. She's in the castle, which is now Witches University, but then was just the Cromwell Castle. Sees Splendora. Splendora is also played by Darcy, by the way. So they're the same person, but Splendora's got long blonde hair. We end up basically finding out that Splendora is Grandma Aggie. If you're also wondering why she did not tell her this before she arrived on campus, you were thinking the same thing we were.
I just don't... I again go with the idea that the only explanation is that it's not Marnie.
Yeah.
You know, like, that when the baby came out and Agatha saw it for the first time, she was like, oh, that's not the little blonde child who looks just like me that came and visited me all those hundreds of years ago. So, obviously, by doing what I did, the timeline has now shifted and a different baby was born.
Exactly.
Because that's the only explanation. Otherwise...
It makes no sense.
Yeah, you should have told her. There are things you didn't tell... Yeah, you should have told her that you knew that this exact scenario was going to play itself out.
Right.
And that there's this unspeakable power that apparently...
Right.
She's born to wield. Like, all of that should have been told to her maybe the moment that she turned 18.
Yeah.
Or in the early witch classes.
So what Aggie essentially, Splendora essentially explains is that, like, the box has... It's essentially Pandora's box. Like, it just has, like, an amulet that can, like, wield power that would allow you to control people. And so Splendora's like, I don't want all this. Like, this doesn't make any sense for me to have it. I'm about to lock it up because nobody should have access to this.
Yeah. Because the whole idea with magic is that apparently... You can amplify feelings that people already have, but you cannot, like,
you can't control. Yeah, you can't
anything. You can't make them. You can't bend.
You can't bend free will. Yeah, you can't change free will. But this would allow you to change somebody's free will. Like, you would have control over it. So
which is why it's perfect to enslave creatures of Halloweentown.
Exactly. So at this point, Aggie, aka Splendora, gives the amulet, or gives the key to Marnie, and that's why Marnie couldn't find it in 2006, because she had it. Which is, yes, I know. So at that point,
it's 2006 when this comes out. Like, we can already do time travel so much better than this.
Yeah,
they have no excuse. I don't care if it's budget. You didn't pay Kimberly J. Brown or Demi Reynolds.
I agree. So then her and Splendora have a nice little moment, and then yes, she comes back to the present, which was 2006. The Chancellor and Silas, I think, apprehend her and are basically like, listen, sis, if you don't use this amulet how we want to use it, which is basically to make all of the creatures in Halloweentown slaves for some odd reason, then we're going to keep your brother Dylan as a dog because we've turned him into a dog. And she was just like, oh no, and Dylan looks sad. So,
his sad dog eyes in his cage.
So then she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna do what you guys need me to do. I just need to change clothes. And so she gets her. Also, this whole time she has like a friend who's her RA, who becomes like her best friend, who is a literal genie named Anissa. Shout out to the Southeast Asian representation in that one. But she doesn't have much of a character really in here. That's why I didn't mention her until now. But she is the one that helps out, like getting her changed and everything, and getting her in and out of the rooms because she's a genius. She can do that. And
smoke,
the smoke,
colored smoke,
a lot of smoke. So they get her changed. She comes out, and it's also like the Halloweentown. It's like the millennial, right? The millennium.
Yeah, that's the
It's
whole.
been around for 1,000 years.
So the whole idea is that they want to. It's like the millennials, like the big celebration, and the idea is that the Dominion wants her to wield this power before midnight on Halloween because I'll get into this a little later, because on midnight Halloween, like, this, generally speaking, spells become permanent and they can't sort of be undone, I guess, until maybe midnight the year after. But the millennial one, it'll be for like the next 1,000 years or something of that nature.
It'll be long lasting.
And so if she does it that night at that time, then they will completely enslave Halloweentown.
Right, which is what they want to do. So they put her out there on, like, the
precipice.
Yeah, the place
balcony,
where, whenever you see like wherever you see crownings happen, they put her out on that place, like
coronation veranda.
Literally a balcony. It's a balcony. And she looks out over everybody, and she had also called her mom by this point, so her mother is there, and her mother and Dylan. She's like, wait, before I do anything, like, you guys need to turn Dylan into a man again. And they were like, oh, okay. So then they turned Dylan into a person, and immediately Dylan and the mom and Marnie are like,
Power of 3 witches.
Right. She puts on the amulet, and they're like, well, it's time to destroy this bitch. So then they do that, and then they're like, no!
The Dominion
people. Because then they can't do anything.
Foiled.
Right. Completely foiled. And then I guess, like, the Sinister Sisters no longer have powers, and, like, everybody else just kind of slinks away. But her and Ethan, are still a cute little couple. I'm sorry.
Cute is a strong word.
Yeah, I'm like, they're not cute, but they're still
they exist.
They're still a couple. And, they've saved Halloweentown once again. That's basically the plot.
And she didn't really destroy the amulet.
Yeah, we find out it's not even post credits, sorry. Yeah. It's like
whatever. She gives it to her brother because she's like, oh, you're the only one who will wield your magic well.
Right.
Because you only use your magic to study, which is why you've been able to skip a grade.
Right. Exactly. So I guess if we want to start off this review portion, if you just want to make a list of all the plot holes.
Listen, that would take 6 hours. Like, I actually have so many. So many. I will do the ones that sort of bothered me the most, I would say, with a T.
That seems fair.
We already kind of went through, like Dylan and Marnie being in college together, just because it doesn't technically, like, the fact that he goes with her to unpack or whatever, and his reasoning is that, oh, mom didn't want you to, like, go to college alone, so now I'm here. I'm just confused as to, so did he apply after you told them?
She literally told them 2 days before she started, too.
Does he also have a scholarship?
Yes.
What was going to happen when you did the original plan and went to community college and then transferred elsewhere? Like, was he always going to just follow you? I have questions about all of that. They're never answered. It just doesn't seem... And then, if that's the case, why is her mom like, oh, no, suddenly all my babies are out of the nest? When it's like, that didn't have to be the case. You made that happen.
Right.
I feel no sympathy for you.
Oh, also, Sophie is supposed to be backpacking, like, in, in the troll forest or some shit. I don't know. They, like, briefly mentioned it,
or she's, like, doing
twice.
something with time. Isn't that what's happening? That's why Grandma Aggie's
she's also backpacking wherever she is.
Whatever.
Like, with the group of creatures.
I stand by the simple assertion that Sophie was the real hero of the good Halloweentown films, and Halloweentown as a franchise immediately diminished in quality when that actress decided she no longer wanted to be an actress and was essentially written out of.
I'd agree with that.
The films. So, alright, so like that was one. Obviously, also the whole time situation and Aggie's not remembering / not revealing what she knows, because just literally, I always hate that in all films when it's just like, if it's avoidable, avoid it. Like, I guess it gets back to that whole thing. Like, just don't keep things from your kids.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
yeah, we talked about this on the first movie. Do not.
It's like, didn't you see what happened when her mom didn't tell her?
Right.
You know, like, Aggie, weren't you sitting there like, maybe I should let her know my real name's Splendora. If nothing else.
Right.
Let her know who I am.
Right.
You know? So that bothered me a bit. The other things were smaller, you know, but still, things to note. Her first assignment in that history class that she has, the assignment that they get is to write an in-class essay, a one-page in-class essay. And he says, write the entire history of the two realms. Those are the words that come out of his mouth. And that is literally impossible. Even if it's a 3-hour class, still literally impossible to do. Mm-hmm. Especially on one sheet of paper. I just don't... That bothers me. As a child of academia, as an intellectual human being, I am annoyed and disturbed that was even something that got past edits.
Because no history professor would ever
say that to you. Like, do you mean write the history of the conflict between the two realms? That's something I could understand. But then, if I have to reword your assignment to me, or ask you for more specificity and all of that, like, why are you teaching me anything? That's just how I feel.
Also, it's like, this realm alone is 1,000 years old. Like, how am I supposed to condense?
It just doesn't track. And in that same vein, the other thing that doesn't track in the classes is, so the favorite kooky teacher, she's like the literature teacher, and they're studying... Periwinkle, thank you. They're studying Shakespeare. Sorry. Sorry, y'all. They're studying Shakespeare, and she has them reading A Midsummer Night's Dream, and I was just really deeply confused because, like, aren't they 18?
Minimum, yeah.
At bare minimum, they're 18. And, alright, I guess in all fairness, there is a world in which the, like, creature world has not interacted with Shakespeare until just now.
Yeah, that could be valid.
That might be the impetus behind that particular choice of play, because I'm sorry, but Midsummer Night's Dream is read in between the ages of 12 and 14 as your introduction to Shakespeare as a concept. Like, that is specifically used as a book for, like, middle school children. It also has absolutely no relevance to the plot. And there are many a Shakespeare play, many a Shakespeare sonnet, with more relevance to the plot of this film than that particular play. So that irked me. Macbeth literally has witches in it.
It does.
And it's one of his more famous plays, and you could have fun with that. The Scottish play is forbidden. You can't say the name. Like, you could have done a whole thing.
My theory is that they
Julius
didn't
Caesar.
have to read Macbeth. Like, whoever wrote this. So they just never read it, so it's like, why would I bring it up?
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it, but I'm not mad that you said it at all. I don't understand why the troll in this is like snotty and doesn't have hair, when the troll in the last one had mad hair and wasn't snotty.
She looked like a troll, like
a troll doll.
What a troll doll would look like.
This one looked like, one of the ones from under
troll.
from like under the bridge. Which is okay, fine. Maybe there are two species of troll, but I need you to like say that.
There's diversity and all.
Like just make that clear to me, because he actually reminded me more of Chester from the last film.
Yeah.
So I'm just
he gave me Chester
perplexed.
or Luke, like a mix between Chester and Luke.
Yeah, I was confused
with the sinus issue. Shout out to all y'all that have sinus issues. By the way,
I guess
I don't have one, but like, I mean, I feel like it's difficult.
No, yeah, for sure. But this was. I don't think that's the impetus of this character.
It's not. No, it's not.
Let's just sort of make, be nice to people with size issues. I don't think that's...
I'm just saying. I know a lot of people will be out there suffering, so shout out to y'all.
Yeah, fair enough.
Allergy season's hard.
Yeah, everyone deserves to be appreciated and loved.
There you go.
Well, most people deserve to be appreciated and loved. I'm gonna really tailor that, because sometimes, The other, like, little one was when Gwen gets to Halloweentown, she changes. She, like, magics herself out of her real estate uniform, or not uniform, out of a real estate
I mean, it
outfit,
is basically a uniform. She wears it the whole time.
and then magics herself into like a wizard's cloak, and it's kind of one of those situations of I don't understand why that's something that you would have to do. Even if you were gonna magic yourself into something, why wouldn't it be like everybody else there is wearing what I will refer to as muggle wear, like is wearing muggle clothes. So why do you have to put on this like witch's outfit that you've never put on before? Like that just doesn't that don't make sense. Like for example, if I'm rolling down Flatbush Avenue, like I don't change out of my Sperry's into my Tim's. Not that I have Sperry's per se, but I'm just saying, like if that were the case, I don't change my garb like to immediately, to like fit in with my hood per se, if it's not particularly out of place to begin with. So I was annoyed.
By this point in the tetralogy, Gwen reps her set. I will say that. That's all
she does. Gwen's stay doing magic in like supermarkets and like on real estate tours.
They got brazen by this one. It started happening last one, but like this one, it was really whoa.
Gwen, didn't you used to yell at your children for doing that all the time?
Yep.
I mean, but go ahead, embrace who you really are. Like we're here for that. So those are like the really small ones. The other big one though was, I think that there is a hole in the logic of the Dominion when it comes to the plan to get this power, right?
The amulet, yeah.
Well, they don't know it's an amulet. They just know that it's the gift.
It's also called the gift with a capital
G. This power that apparently will be bestowed on a Cromwell,
right,
at the turn of the millennium.
Well, I guess technically it's like a person, but it was
does it say Cromwell? Or it
says Cromwell on it, but I don't think it was Cromwell specific, if that makes sense.
The prophecy was Cromwell specific?
Yeah, like I don't think the actual amulet was Cromwell specific.
No, I'm not saying that, but again, they don't know what the hell is in the box.
Right, they don't.
I'm saying the prophecy says it's a Cromwell.
Yes, the prophecy says it's a Cromwell.
So as far as they know,
it has to be a Cromwell.
Yeah, like as far as they know, that's the only scenario. So my issue here is that if when you open the box, you receive the power, I don't understand, and it's an issue with the Dominion, it's also an issue with Marnie having this whole extensive plan, because if you are then bestowed with the power immediately upon opening this box, right, in theory, what stops you from literally just not doing what they want you to do?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they be like, okay, now enslave Halloweentown, and you're just like, no.
How about I don't?
And if they try to like fight you, you'll be like, I'ma bend your will so that you don't want to enslave Halloweentown. Like, why wouldn't that just be something you're immediately able to do?
Yeah, Nina and I, I think once we got to the middle end, we were both just like, wait, but I mean, as soon as they turned him into a dog, everything essentially was a moot point. She really had no reason to do. She didn't even have to show up on that coronation veranda, as you like to call it. She didn't need to be on that balcony.
It's like you could have. Why didn't you just open the box and turn your brother back and tell them peace? And literally that would have been the end of it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. There was no plan necessary. Not that it wasn't a lackluster destruction of the amulet. Let's be real.
Which didn't happen technically. So.
Lackluster is a good word for this film, I think, across the board. But that really irks me. When villains have plans and they are obviously flawed from their inception.
Yeah.
And this is a situation where there's a group of villains.
Yeah.
One of whom, possibly two of whom, run the damn university. So again, I just hate, I hate the idea that. Actually, not hate the idea. You know what? This is exactly probably why all the witches are going to the University of Wisconsin. Because they are sick and tired of these lackluster witches with lackluster brains trying to teach them things. I think that's what happened. I think their parents were like, you know what? If you got options now, please go take them.
Please go elsewhere.
Because it's not it.
Please.
Go to Stanford.
Go to Stanford.
Please.
Leave this place.
Anywhere but here.
I think the other or did you finish all the plot holes?
Oh yeah, those are the important ones. The rest are just little personal quips.
Yes. I think the other thing is that this whole, Sarah Paxton versus Kimberly J. Brown situation was very light-skinned Aunt Viv and dark-skinned Aunt Viv. Also physically the hair. I initially felt the trigger that I got when I was watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air for the first time.
Suddenly.
And was like, wait, what? It was what happened? Wait, what happened?
Or people forget about this one too. It's much smaller. But My Wife and Kids.
Yeah, they changed the girl from the first season.
Claire is her name,
yeah, Claire.
And you're like, we did love
I think it's also because she was only on for one season, so people didn't people didn't notice as much.
I did.
As Fresh Prince. But yes, no, you're also right on that.
I did.
But yes, it did feel very that. It was just like, I wonder what this casting decision was. Also, Kimberly J. Brown has expressed dissatisfaction with it and said she didn't know why she was not called upon. So, we would just like to note that. Just have it down there. And I mean, I feel like overall they're in this movie. I mean, they were kind of tackling some of the similar issues as Halloweentown, but as Halloweentown High, but it wasn't as like well. And I know we talked about how that one wasn't even necessarily like well done in its execution of the themes, but I feel like the themes were like very apparent in that film in a way that they're not, or that they're somewhat.
They were still handled better in that.
Yeah, like it's like this one kind of like half-assed that way of doing it, because this one also handles a lot of the similar things, like even when I was saying earlier how like Witches U now accepts like all the creatures, and Marnie is like low-key not happy about that because she just wants to practice magic, and it's like, girl, this is what you've been fighting for
for years.
Susan B. Anthony,
what's going on? How you mad?
You gave the girls the right to vote. Like I can't. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. She's just like, yeah, I want everybody to be. I want it. Basically, just it seems again like it's all selfish. Like, it's very much like, I want to be able to cross the world, but I didn't say that everybody needs to get into where I get into.
Oh.
And then also the fact that they're like on her family's like land, you know, it's like she's just like, on this land, my land. Like,
I also don't buy that, like, they've never done any type of Cromwell history. Like, why doesn't she know any of this?
It is very weird that it's like that you wouldn't, like, I mean, like Nina was saying, it's like the fact that like Aggie didn't even tell her that her real first name is Splendora. Like, it's like, wouldn't you have like a family tree of some sort, especially because y'all live so damn long? Isn't there like 7 people on there? I'm just saying, like, I'm like, Aggie was alive. It was a teenager during the early 20s or whatever, in the Dark Ages.
The Dark Ages.
The literal Dark Ages. So it's like, it's probably 7. There's 7 people
since the beginning of time
on that family
as
tree.
We know it. Yeah, it just doesn't track. I don't know. Maybe, you know what? Maybe it's a thing. Maybe Disney just doesn't do prophecy films well.
You know what?
Maybe that's just what it is. They just don't know. All right, let me rephrase. Not Disney doesn't do prophecy well. DComs don't do prophecy well.
Yeah.
Because it's not, obviously, Disney does prophecy well.
In
other places.
Right.
But in this particular realm, or maybe prophecies films just aren't something that can be budget and still work. You know?
Yeah.
Because then it's always just generic and non-specific, and you have a lot more questions than can be answered in the 90 minutes that are allotted for this, because it's got to be 2 hours.
That programming was like, listen, you got 90 minutes
at most. Like, if we can get 43 minutes of commercials into this, we would love that.
Right. They're like, we're not doing over that unless you're the Descendants.
So maybe that's part of why it's just not very well done.
It was also, it's like they have those similar overtones that we were talking about with Halloweentown High, where it's like, you want to make all of the creatures slaves. And I was like,
yeah,
okay. And it's like, witches only, aka whites only.
Literally 1 letter away, which is hilarious.
It's so, yes. Just like the fact that they created a caste system amongst the quote-unquote oppressed, which, granted, if you're in your own realm, you're not oppressed in that realm, but if we're saying the global...
But the realm exists because you were oppressed.
Right. Like, you were previously oppressed in a different realm.
Yeah.
So if we're saying interdimensionally, you're oppressed.
Yeah.
So it's like the fact that they just created that class system with witches at the top, which again we talked about in the third one, that basically being because witches can pass as humans.
Which is even why they're allowed to go. I mean, I assume that maybe other creatures go and wear skin suits of sorts, but, you know.
But you're not going as your full self.
Exactly, but witches can and have decided to go to school.
In the mortal world.
Yeah, in the other realm.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know.
And then my other conspiracy theory is this. Once we went back and found out that, you know, Miss Aggie, aka Splendora, was an early 20s person, like I said, in the Dark Ages, I'm trying to figure out, did old girl, was she the one that separated the realms?
Yeah, because I feel like in the first one she says something along the lines of, like, Cromwell magic having to do with it.
Yeah.
With them creating the... And she does say, she's like, so we created our own world. You know?
Right.
She does sort of say it like that. I think that tracks. I could easily believe that part of the reason that Agatha doesn't... You know what I mean? Like, there's a little bit of guilt there. That maybe that's part of the reason why she hasn't been as forthcoming as one would expect her to be in this situation. Also, again, since your family magic has now been attempted to be stolen so many times.
Yes.
That you would think you would give all of the information to the younger generations so that they can be prepared for anything that might come their way. Like the magic amulet you locked away in a box that there's a prophecy about.
Yep.
For a millennial turn that is coming up in like 2-3 years.
Yep.
You would think that that's something that would come up.
One would think.
But if you are feeling guilty because you're the one who made the realm in the first place, then maybe you won't. Maybe you're like, you know what? We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And until then, I would just, like, to preserve my own sanity and mental happiness, I would just literally not open Pandora's box.
If they do a Halloweentown 5, I want Splendora at the helm of the race war. Because...
On a horse.
On a horse when this happens. Because now I'm solidified in this belief that it was literally her who did this. Because again, like I said, there are only 7 people in that family.
And it would make sense, like... that Marnie inherited that spirit. You know what I mean? It would make sense
to
that
be like,
Marnie
I can bring everyone together.
Maybe that's why Gwen rebelled the way she did. Because she was like, Bob, you were horrible.
Also,
Not
how
horrible.
old is Gwen?
But you did. That's also very good.
How old is Gwen? We need to figure this information out, guys.
There are so many questions now about...
Someone DM us and tell us how old you think that Gwen is.
Let's do a poll.
Yeah, we need
over 150, over 500...
If
actually 37,
we don't know. Because if Aggie was actually like a young adult, high teen, early 20s type in the Dark Ages, old girl is like what, multiple centuries old?
And we never hear about Gwen's daddy. Was Gwen made?
Yeah,
like maybe
I have questions
Aggie
about Gwen
made
too.
Gwen. You know,
like has Gwen been around since like the 1800s?
Maybe.
And then just like.
She didn't find love until
children or something?
Yeah, well, she didn't find love until she met Marnie and.
Right.
I assume that witches should have great birth control.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like I would even think like maybe you can physically like internally stop your clock and be like, oh, we're just not gonna send eggs out today.
Yeah.
Well, if their biology would work the same way, if they are. Again.
But again, we go back to the question we asked with Ethan, which is like, also. Are witches just humans with powers, or are they actually a specific magical being, but one that's just able to
You know,
pass?
like do we share like a genus?
Right.
You know, are we just different species, or like when does our tree split from theirs?
Are we human or are we dancer?
I'm dancer, bro. Always, every time. And if you're not choosing dancer, I don't want you around me. I don't need to see you.
But yes, no, it just gets into a much bigger question. But yeah, now I'm like wondering how old is Miss Gwen?
Yeah, I don't. Halloweentown has left us with more questions than when we started.
than answers. I mean, I guess to sum up the entire tetralogy before we get into would we show this to our kids and stuff. I feel like we didn't go in expecting this to be the integration story. That
definitely did not.
Because I did not catch that when I was a kid.
Didn't catch it also again, but I also didn't watch the last two. So,
Yeah, and I feel like because I feel
overlooked.
like you can see it thinly veiled in the first two, but you can also ignore it
Yeah,
without.
well, it's not the first
or
two
not
are
ignore
about they're
it,
about
but
acceptance and tolerance and all like so like that and
it
just different
related
types
to
of
it,
people.
but
Like I
different.
expected that going in. I did not clock the like how it very much becomes like the melding of
Assimilation and integration.
Yeah. Later on.
So, would you show this to your kids?
Dude, we'll watch. All right, we're definitely watching the first two, right? On the Halloween suite, we're watching the first two. If they put the third on, I'll let them. Go ahead, knock yourself out. If they put this one on, and here's the thing, I can understand if they're like, we want to know what happens to Marnie before they start and be like, listen, you see that picture, right? Like, look at that thumbnail or whatever they're called, like on Disney Plus. Look at that picture.
Thumbnail,
right?
Yeah.
Look at that thumbnail. You see that? That's Marnie. Marnie doesn't look like that. I know. It's not really Marnie. You sure you want to watch it? Because you're not going to find out what happens to real Marnie. Real Marnie's gone. She's never coming back. So do you really want to watch it? If they're still like, yeah, we really want to watch it, I'm like, okay, I'm put it on in your room, and you can sit in your room and watch, because I don't even want to hear this nonsense. Honest to God truth, this was a labor of love for me, y'all. I did this for you. If it were me by myself, like 8 minutes into this film, I would have turned it off. I would have walked away. Because I don't think it needs to exist. And I don't think that we should encourage it by, like, clicking on it too hard. So here's the thing. If you really love it, this is one of your favorite, like, DCOMs, that's your opinion. You're entitled to it. And I don't mean to offend you. I also do think that it's just bad. And not even, like, get drunk and watch it bad. It's just bad. And that is a fact. Yeah. Not an opinion. So, yeah, nah. Nah is the answer to all questions concerning this film for me.
Yeah, I don't. I think we both agree that we say don't rewatch this one, unless you really were like a stand for this when it came out in 06.
Or a stand for the whole,
or the tetralogy. If you want to complete the tetralogy, I understand, because we did too.
Mistake.
But I would just say that, it can also, a tetralogy is also a trilogy. So you can just watch the first 3 and it will.
And 3 is a powerful number, y'all.
It will wrap up nicely. You really don't need to go into this one. It actually adds nothing to the general Halloweentown lore.
Nothing.
Literally nothing. So other than you get some background, I guess, on Miss Splendora.
But even then,
that you don't.
It's not real background. It's background that only gives you more questions.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, I would say I wouldn't. And, yeah, I don't know if I'd let my... Yeah, if it's not, like, they can watch it.
Yeah, watch it, but just don't... I don't want to hear it. I literally don't want to hear it. Like, you can watch it in your room, in the back,
watch
with
Darcy's
the sound
Wildlife
at a reasonable level. Because I don't want to know that's on. That's how I feel.
No, we can watch Darcy's Wildlife instead. She was much better in that, and she was, yes. If we must watch a Sarah Paxton production. But yeah, no, I agree. I definitely would not say, to y'all generally, I would not recommend rewatching.
Which is, sort of, there's a part of me that's a bit sad that this is how we ended our Halloween suite.
Yeah, but you know what?
It's still, because, I mean, listen, it's been such a riot,
a fun journey
doing this, and just remembering Halloween as a kid, and just sort of, all the candy that's everywhere, just like re-entering it from a place of wonder with a little bit of scare factor, but mainly wonderment, as opposed to sort of horror and darkness, or drunken stupors that you or other types of stupors that you enter into it with, like, as an adult. It was just sort of nice being in that space again.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. And I, as a concept, like, I just would want this to, like, these films, not this film, but these films, these DCOM Halloween films, to be a part of my kids' Halloween wonder space. And I think that I just really appreciate that that we were able to do that. And I think that you guys should, if you haven't, do it too.
Yeah, rewatch. I definitely say rewatch the first three. I mean, I do think if you're a kid and you're probably younger than 9 or 10, you probably like it. You'll probably like it. Like, you know, like
Yeah, but
it's
there
just
were a
like
lot of things I liked when I was 9 and 10 adult. Like pixie sticks. Literally
Yeah.
cocaine for children. Powdered sugar in a paper straw.
Right, but I'm also like, this is, you know, this is kids programming, so kids probably did enjoy it. I think it actually got very high views. So, but
yeah, because everybody was excited to go back to Halloween.
Exactly.
And then they gave us
Were they false views? Yes. But, you know, people did watch it, you know, and so it might be somebody's favorite film. I do think if you're a little kid, like, little kids would probably enjoy it because it's just, like, magic, you know.
Yeah.
As a general concept.
It's not scary.
Yeah, it's not scary at all.
There's nothing to scare a child in this.
Yeah. So with that, you know, that ends the tetralogy, guys. I hope you have enjoyed it. We've enjoyed watching them.
Yeah. And generally speaking, you know, hope you guys have a fun, safe Halloween. Fun, safe, you know, pandemic-friendly Halloween.
Yeah, for real.
I don't think trick-or-treating is necessary. I don't know. But, you know, just have fun and be safe, everyone. And that's all I got.
Watch the trilogy. You know? That's
it's so bad. It's so bad. It's such a bad film. Just
that, I think that's our parting words, along with R.I.P. Debbie Reynolds. She really was a light in this entire, you know, in the entire tetralogy.
And the world.
Yeah, she was just a great actress, and, you know, she did so many things, and especially at this point in her career, turning to doing, like, a kid's TV film.
Yeah, she didn't have to do that.
She didn't have to do that. Like, my girl was in, you know, everything. Literally everything.
I would list it out for you, but that's not a good use of our time.
No, but the woman was in everything, and, like, she's just a really respected and, like, such a great actress. I believe she also sang too, because when you were coming up, when she came up, you kind of had to do both.
Do it all, yo.
So, yeah, you know, R.I.P. to her. We love Miss Kimberly J. Brown. You deserve. You played off of Debbie Reynolds at like 15 or 16 years old, which is insane.
And I will say she was one of my more favorited. Like, we haven't watched Quince yet, but you have no idea how excited I am to watch Quince. Kimberly J. Brown, you know, she made me very happy as a child. She was one of those that I aspired to be inside.
Yes, no, I agree with that. And also, we loved Sophie. I'm sorry, I forgot the actress who plays her name, her real name, and then also Dylan. You know, like, everybody that was in these films. Yeah. You know, everybody did their. It is a fun. It's cast. Iconic for a reason. Like, there's a reason there were 4. Like, Disney doesn't make 4 of anything, except I think now they're making 4 of the Descendants. But up until recently, that was very recent. Yeah. They have not made 4 of anything, and there's a reason. The brand is iconic. Yeah. Okay?
There's also a reason not to do it.
As much as we didn't like this 4th one, put some respect on the Halloweentown name, girls, okay?
Yeah. Or keep it there. I feel like there's already the respect there. Just make sure, just, you know, give it an extra coat if you like.
Yeah, go back to it, revisit it, enjoy it.
Yeah.
And happy Halloween! I don't know why I did that weird voice, but, like...
It's all right, girl.
I was summoning my inner
It's a transitional period for everybody right now.
Summoning my inner ghoul. But what's a ghoul to a goblin?
I think that's the quote of the month.
Yeah. Yeah, that literally has been our quote to the month of this month. But what is a ghoul to a goblin?
Still don't have the answer to that question.
Yeah. And if you don't know who that quote is by,
yeah, you gotta just go look that up. Yeah. That's not even something that...
Just look it up. It will come up. All right. Happy Halloween, guys, and we'll see you next week. Or you'll hear us.
Cut that.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Critics Kingdom. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify and SoundCloud so you can stay up to date, as well as interacting and letting us know what you guys think on social media. You can find us on Twitter at Critics Kingdom and on Instagram at The Critics Kingdom. We're excited to talk to you again next week.